something that is kind of cool. I don't think this is really like an insider secret or something like that, but handling foil is really nerve-wracking. It's really expensive for these sheets. Could go up to $100 for a sheet, and it's really difficult to work with, and you don't want to mess them up. When these sheets came to me, they were in a big cardboard thing like this. They're inside, obviously, to keep them from getting damaged. So it's a big sheet. It's 10 inches by 10 inches. You really can't work on that kind of a big sheet, because if you mess up or something happens, you're gonna be crying. So what I do is early on, I had bought a bunch of little ribbons, and they would come in these little containers. So I kept them. So I still have these, and I like to work in smaller increments. So I'll get a big sheet and then cut them down to smaller ones. So if I do have something where I have damaged them or in storage, I'll bring them out and it tears the sheet, and it really is heartbreaking to ruin them. So I just try to lessen that by making them in smaller containers. But then that in itself is its own scariness, because I've got to then cut them. So what I've done already is I cut the sheet into increments of the 10 inches by 10 inches. I went 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and then I cut that in half, and then I have 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. So technically, you'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll get 8 2.5-inch sheets, and usually the ribbons are about 2 inches. So I have a little bit of leeway. But that's as much as you can get, and you don't really want to mess this up. If you've watched some tutorials from other companies, they definitely have different ways of cutting the ribbons. And if you don't know what a ribbon is, basically like this microphone functions with ribbons, and it doesn't make any noise unless you have a ribbon. So to give you an idea of how small, even though you see a big sheet there, this is how small they are. And these are different lengths. I have a bunch of 160s in here. That's how thin they are. So comparable to that sheet, I've got to cut a little piece of foil out of each one. And there's ways of downsizing it, but that'll be another time. But this one right here is a little bit bigger. This is probably next to a Steger mic, as pretty big as you can get. This is from a Kohl's, and I think it's almost 6 millimeters. These other ones, the Bar 160s, are like 140 or 1.40. So those little pieces of foil are what you'll get from big sheets like this. So because I don't know what mics I'm working on and the sizes, I just got to break down my big sheet into manageable portions. For years, I was not gluing these down. I would just, and also these papers aren't the ones that it came with. I think I threw some away. Let me see if I can find one. It's a little bit of a waxy paper, and my razor blades, even if I have really sharp ones, after a few cuts, starts to snag the paper and then rips the ribbon. So early on, when I figured out, like I had to figure out an alternative to cutting ribbons, and what am I going to use? An art supply store, and I found massive big sheets of tracing paper, and that seems for me to have the best cutting. It feels like when I cut it with a razor blade, my razor blades don't get dull too quick, and also they don't snag. They're a good cut. So as now I've already replaced it, this is the tracing paper here. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but this is obviously a foil. In that white is a foil. Let me just show you what it looks like. You can see that one right there. That is a foil in there. But this one hasn't been adhered to the paper yet. So on this one, I don't know if you can see that. That is just a little bit of crazy glue. And now I don't want to, because it's so expensive, I have to put enough right there, and then I kind of use this to just flatten it, and I just take it right up to the edge where it seals it. So it's important that I think you lock in one side up here. So I'm gluing a little bit up here and gluing here, and what that does is that make sure this is not going to slip around. So if you watch, you know, the big companies, when they do that, a lot of times they'll just take some measurements of here and here. They mark their lines. And then depending on the thickness, and obviously if you're a big company and you're cutting hundreds of ribbons, you can cut them the same size. That ensures that as you're cutting them, the ribbon's not going to move out of there. Now that's a cool little tip. Took me a long time to figure it out. If you're into this world and you want to cut ribbons, get ready for the heartbreak. It's really difficult, but it's not like I'm better than anyone else. It just takes a lot of time and skills to get that down. There may be other glues, other adhesives you can use for it. I just use Crazy Glue because it works fast and it seals it pretty good. So now I have 3 sheets done. And what I'm going to do with these sheets is once I've cut them, and I want to make sure, because I have a lot of ribbons to do, that I can store them another bag like this. And the reason I have 3 is that you can't get any dust on these. You don't want to get them dirty, and you definitely don't want them to crease or bend. And then within that, a big cardboard box like this. So all these are just to ensure that I'm not going to ruin them. So now I've come to the one where I need to, this is the scary part. So those are done. I've got 3 done. And I still have a half a sheet left to cut, but this is so time consuming and I do have a lot of ribbons to do that I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to cut half the sheet, and I think this is plenty for right now, and I'll have to take another morning to do another set. And like I said, you just don't want to rush this, because if I grab the sheet or blow on it or breathe on it or crease it, it ruins the sheets of ribbon and you cannot use them again. So these in this state are its most fragile because you haven't corrugated yet. It's not reinforced and it's pretty virgin. So I'm gonna open this up. Ouchie ouch. Nervous, I'm nervous. Don't mess this up. Okay, so what you have to worry about at this point is this paper just wants to scream, I'm gonna fly up on you, and I have to make sure that this foil doesn't get snagged at all. So I'm gonna move it down. Then I got my Crazy Glue for crazies. I'm not gonna snort it, don't worry. I've never done that, but I have some friends that have done whiteout. I always thought that was interesting. So now I'm gonna put some glue on the top part. I think some's coming out. I'm spreading the F right here. All right, so I got a little bit of glue there. Doesn't have to really, you know, foil so thin, but I do want it to adhere to, and I do want this not to move anymore. So now I'm gonna drop that a little bit on the glue. I'm gonna put this down. Scary part. Ooh. Now I'm just lightly press that into place. Now the glue is gonna really move fast through that. So I'm gonna get my little tool here, and I just want to crease it because I don't want this. I want this to be flat as possible, and I don't want the paper to buckle, because if the paper buckles, it will ruin that thin foil. So there I go. I've creased it out. Now, the reason I've done this, in the old days, I didn't do any of that, and I realized that the foil kind of moved around. I didn't really like that. Then I watched some video tutorials. People that cut ribbons, like at AEA, they adhere glue there and there. Made sense to me. I was like, oh my God, life-changing. And then, so now that's my practice then, is to do it like that. I don't know how other people do it, but that's how I like to do it, because I can cut the ribbon, it's not gonna move. So now what I need to do now is I need to stabilize the bottom half here. But what's important is, as I've glued that, and this is flat, what I don't wanna do is somehow have this buckled up. And as I glue it, it's gonna add a crease in the foil and it's gonna get ruined. Even right there, you can see a little bit is already snagged and gotten messed up. That's gonna be unusable. And because this foil is like money real estate, I don't want to ruin, I don't wanna ruin any of it, or as much as I can. So I'm gonna get this up. All right, so my foil's up. I've got my Crazy Glue here. Let's make sure I put this off camera to blow out all the air so I can use it. I know this is boring stuff, but the people that always talk about ribbons and cutting it, this is really useful if you ever wanted to do your own ribbons, and how to store and manage and work with foil, because it's really awesome, and then really nasty, and really scary, and really expensive. Okay, there it goes. So now it doesn't have to necessarily go on the foil. I'm just gonna spread it kind of near the foil. Come on, glue. Don't let me down now. Alright, there it goes. So as I spread it out, like I said, I don't have to get that close because it's gonna get in there anyways. Scary. Okay. Now to make sure that goes flat, then I'm gonna lay my ruler down because I don't want this paper to crease or move up. But then I have to then move this, move the glue into the foil, kind of just crease it in, and then just kind of buckled a little bit, but it's enough to stick it together and hold it in. So that's my how and when you see me make ribbons. So this is a premium high-grade aluminum from Japan, and even though it looks firm within this, it is really, really delicate. This is its most, I guess, easiest stage to damage it when it comes to you before you've done anything, before you've cut it. So I have 1 sheet, 2 sheets, 3 sheets, and 4. And then once I get done with these, I will cut these into smaller pieces, and they will look like that. So here is an example of a pretty small ribbon. Actually, I don't know what this one came out of, but that's an example right there. So when you see these big sheets, they get cut into little tiny ones like that. So how will I do that? That is for another day. But a lot of it is just patience, keeping your cool, and even though I'm breathing and talking, not breathing. And that's it, cutting ribbons. So that's half of my order. I need to cut the other half another morning. This is taking me maybe 2 hours to prep it, cut it, and everything needs to be clean. All the cuts need to be right. I need to measure out exactly how I cut the ribbon because you do not want to waste any of it. So I just cut it down to the millimeter, and that is the world of Manny right now.